Are you addicted to coffee? Do you know why you're addicted to coffee? How do you know whether you have an addiction to coffee? When one of the most prestigious scientific journals recently published about why you are addicted to coffee, this is a serious matter that we just can't ignore. We will cover all this in this video shortly. I'm new to this YouTube thing, so if you're keen to laugh at my videos or simply wants to know how I progress over time, feel free to subscribe to my channel and I will love you for it. Now, let's get on with why we're watching this video. Coffee addiction is an epidemic. I live in Melbourne, Australia, so the coffee culture is a big thing here. You can't walk along a street in Melbourne without being exposed to another coffee house. Let's turn our attention to the history of coffee, and I'll throw some facts your way about coffee just to keep it interesting. The history of coffee dates back to the 15th century and originated from Ethiopia, but first recorded evidence of coffee drinking is by the Sufis at the monastery to keep alert during nighttime devotion. Over time, coffee drinking spread all over the world as more coffee houses appeared, but mostly drank by the wealthy customers. It is not until by the 1800s, the mass cultivation and production of coffee in Brazil turned coffee from an elite indulgence to a drink for the masses. Brazil now produces 3.05 million metric tons of coffee by 300,000 coffee plantations. This represents 30% of the world's production. Today, there are two main coffee bean types. Coffee Robusta, which makes up 3/4 of what is being sold today, and coffee Arabica, which is of higher quality and referred to as gourmet coffee. Europeans are the biggest coffee consumers. The Finnish takes the top price of 12 kilograms of coffee per person per year. You start to wonder whether the Finns ever get a shut-eye. How wired can you get when you drink this much coffee? The highest concentration of Starbucks is in Monaco, followed by the US. That is a surprise. Did you know that the 1st of October is the International Coffee Day? This year, they celebrated the role of women in coffee. Fair enough, considering most coffee bean pluckers are performed by women. Must be their gentle hands. We have come to the midpoint of this video, and there are still more interesting things about addiction to coffee. If you like it so far, don't forget to press like at the bottom. Here's something that will be a challenge to keep your breakfast down if you're watching this in the morning. Weird facts about coffee. Did you know that there are people who have an addiction to coffee enemas? What? Yep, there are even coffee addiction documentaries on YouTube showing this. Apparently, coffee enema supporters claim that coffee enema can boost immunity, increase energy, stop yeast overgrowth, and remove parasites from the digestive tract. As for me, I do not think that this route for coffee is really going to catch on. I can't visualize this happening in any coffee shop anytime soon. Can you imagine catching up with mates at the coffee shop with a tube sticking off their rear end? Visualize that right now. Not too good. So what are the health benefits of coffee drinking? Well, the list of benefits of coffee is big. Here are some interesting ones. Other than keeping you awake, it can increase your fiber intake, protect against cirrhosis of the liver, lower the risk of type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and heart disease. But what are the dangers of drinking coffee? It is the caffeine in coffee that causes insomnia, nervousness, restlessness, and stomach upset. If you drink too much coffee, you get headaches, anxiety, agitation, and irregular heartbeats. And yes, I'm familiar with the irregular heartbeats. If you're addicted to coffee, you get a headache when you skip your regular morning cup of coffee. You become grumpy because you no longer get that same stimulation in your brain. You find it hard to concentrate. You need more coffee over time to have the same fix. You become anxious and agitated. If you're like my wife, giving up coffee is like throwing yourself into the volcano pit. It will never happen. Although we have been told that coffee addiction is not the same as some of the recreational drugs, gosh, the sign above certainly shows some resemblance. For those of you who are remotely interested in the mechanism of coffee and your brain, I have a treat for you today. The addiction component of coffee is caffeine. Everyone knows this. However, how it works is caffeine blocks your brain receptors for adenosine. Adenosine is a natural occurring chemical that tells you that you're tired. But if caffeine blocks this, you are more alert and have more energy for a period of time until it metabolizes. This is where the addiction of coffee starts. The body produces more of the adenosine receptors, and your other natural occurring brain stimulants like dopamine and adrenaline work much more effectively if you are a regular coffee drinker. So over time, it takes more caffeine to block the receptors. Hence, you need more coffee and more regularly. So a recent scientific paper by Nature published in November 2018 summarized that your addiction to coffee potentially has something to do with your genes. Apparently, if you have a greater genetic predisposition to perceiving the bitterness of coffee, you simply drink more coffee. It is our ability to detect bitterness. That will be your excuse the next time sometimes points out that you drink too much coffee. It is genetics. This is interesting because if anything that goes into our mouth that is bitter, we're not supposed to like it. However, people with such higher bitterness sensitivity somehow provides a positive feedback to their bodies when they consume coffee. For some of you who are thinking about how to quit coffee addiction, I will share with you the experience of my addiction to coffee and how to overcome coffee addiction. My addiction to coffee started at high school and working the late shift at KFC. By the time I realized I was addicted to coffee, I was drinking 4 cups of coffee in succession before starting my shift, and then a few more during the day. But what worried me about the coffee addiction was having a resting heartbeat of 130 beats per minute after drinking that many cups of coffee. Some coffee addicts simply reduce the amount of coffee intake per day. But for me, as a person of all or nothing, I am one of those. Coffee addict quit cold turkey. This is the only way I know how to break coffee addiction. Apparently, for those who are inspired to stop coffee altogether, it takes 7 to 12 days of cold turkey days to allow the amount of adenosine receptors to go back to the normal level. Now that's a challenge for you. Please put it on the comment below on how addicted you are to coffee, or what other strategies you use to reduce the amount of coffee you drink. There is never a guarantee that quitting coffee will change your life. If it is not possible because your addiction to coffee is too strong, then reducing your coffee intake may be a good start. Everything you have ever wanted to know about coffee can be found in other videos. This is not that video. This is just to highlight whether you have a coffee addiction and I overcome my coffee addiction. What do I know about coffee anyway? I replaced my coffee addiction by drinking liters of tea instead. If you like this video, please press the like button below, but don't forget to subscribe.